Hello and welcome back to the Macca's Talk Hockey podcast where me and my brother and Dan talk about English ice hockey, specifically the NIHL, and we are back again. Week 11 has finished, all 10 games. We have a little bit of news, and hopefully we'll have Kell Beattie for an interview as well. He said that he might be able to do it tomorrow, so hopefully we can film that tomorrow and then get this out on either Wednesday morning or Wednesday afternoon. But yeah, if the interview does go ahead, I'll edit it into this episode. But yeah, before we get into the news, how are we doing, lads? We all right?
Yeah, I'm all good.
Part-timers this weekend? Didn't go to any hockey games? You frauds?
Yeah, I had a
Wow.
good weekend.
Nothing to say for yourselves? Yeah. If you didn't know, I went to the double away trip with Swindon. And Dan, go on, you've had an operation, so I'll actually let you off.
Yeah. See, I had toe surgery, so it's not my fault. I got told not to drive. So if I hadn't have had that, I would have gone. Don't you
Yeah,
worry.
you did watch a couple games on the streams as well. And then Charlie, why
He's just
weren't
a
you
proper
at any
fraud.
games?
I had Black Friday, the most important part of my work of the year.
Yeah,
That's the most important part, the part where everything's on sale, and I got a salad. So yeah, I was working. I had
yeah,
work.
Hockey's not on a Friday, mate. It's on the weekend. So
Yeah,
yeah,
my job's
enough
7 days a
excuses
week.
now
7 days a week, my job is.
yeah. Well,
from bed.
we're still going to go through all the games, and talk about them. And we'll talk about the games I was at the weekend as well. But before we get into that, the news. And first one, Dan, a Basingstoke player back in the league. We saw him briefly in his first game back on a little injury spell with the Bristol Pitbulls. And he had a pretty decent game, well, pretty decent second and third period because the first period was mayhem, but he was actually pretty decent the second and third. And Bristol have decided to sign him full time for the rest of the season. Yeah, good little signing, and I think they need a bit of depth on their D this season.
Yeah, they've been a bit unlucky with the injuries they've got, and obviously Jay King's one of those guys that he knows the league. He's been in the league for 3 years with Basingstoke, so you can sort of. He's obviously got connections with Redmond, and obviously Barry coached him as well, or played with him in Edinburgh. So it's no stranger to both of them. It's good, and at least they know he can sort of put him out in any situation, especially on a young team, and he can do a job.
Yeah, well, he's got plenty of experience. He actually played a couple of years in the Elite League, with the Edinburgh Capitals. Obviously, they were quite not bad, but they weren't great in the Elite League, and they were coming to an end. And then the Elite they collapsed, and then obviously King went to Basingstoke, and they collapsed. So yeah, it's
So,
not looking. No, I'm joking, but Bristol should be all right. But no, it's a good little signing, Charlie, isn't it? And yeah, as Dan said, he can play in really any situation you need him, and he does get a few points as well. He got 47 for Basingstoke.
Yeah, he does his job. He in the National League, it feels like there's less and less D man, and each year some retire, some move on, or it just feels like we're losing D man. And Jay King is someone who can fit on a third, second pair. He'll do his job. He'll be consistent. And in the game we watched him, I think the first period he'll be the first to say he wasn't very good. But in the second and third, he had a really good game, and he ended up picking up 2 assists on goals. And yeah, I think it's a good asset for Bristol. Actually, I just think especially as they're not adding a player when they're on a bad run, and that's what I quite like. It's better for the player coming in when you're added to a team which is performing.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And
That's a good
he's
point.
joining the team
Actually, they're
in
almost
results.
adding to a team which is already doing quite well.
Yeah, they did need, and there's definitely room for improvement in Bristol, but they're getting results. They got off that bad patch at the start of the year, and they're starting to get results. And now Jay King's coming in to just help bolster that team, and I do think he's an upgrade on that team. So I think it's a clever move by Bristol, and I wouldn't be surprised if they brought in one more guy before the end of the year because I think that roster with an extra another maybe more experienced guy or young talent, I think can really start to take its stride, and I think the playoff battle will be quite entertaining.
Yeah, we're hoping that it goes on right to the end, and yeah, maybe they'll add a couple more if it gets really close. But one D-man who did leave his team and the National League as a whole, Ben Brown has left the MK Lightning to join his childhood team, the Dundee Rockets. I think they're newly named as the Rockets in the Scottish League. And this is a huge loss. I think. Well, it is in terms of how good of a player he can be. Dan, he can play forward, he can play defense. He picks up good points considering he's not one of the top guys as well. He's got an absolute laser beam of a slap shot. It will be a miss for Milton Keynes.
Yeah, 100%. I think I was surprised when he didn't go to another team in the National League because he's definitely at that level. But obviously, I'm guessing like outside of hockey and stuff like that, he sort of had a decision in that way. But yeah, it is a big loss for MK. It's another one of those young players that sort of were up and coming and could have been something special for that team. And now he's obviously gone. But the thing is, in MK, I don't think they're going to be too worried about it because they've got players to fill the gap. You know what I mean? They've got those players. We know they've got those players. So if that was any other team, it would be probably quite a big loss. But with MK, it's sort of another player.
Yeah, I actually think he's. But I'm not even just saying this because he left. I've always said to Charlie and Dan, he would be on my underrated. I think we did on the plane, Charlie, an underrated team, and Ben Brown was in that underrated team for me. And I just think it is so valuable that you can play him forward and D and just trust him there. And I actually think if he was at any other team in the national, which don't have as much depth, he would have been quite a big piece of that team.
Yeah, I really rate Ben Brown. I really like him. I think he added quite a bit to MK, and I think Dan's right in the sense other players will get more opportunity now he's gone. Maybe I'll give him like a Callum Field will get a bit more opportunity in the forward, or Salisbury won't ever not play D. He'll always have that D spot. But I think having a player who can play forward and D is useful in case you do get injury strike. MK last year had 8 D man. They've only got 6 now. I know they've still got 6, but they take one D man out and they'll have to play another forward in D's, maybe not as used to being there. But no, I wouldn't be surprised if MK replaced, I'll be honest. It wouldn't shock me. But yeah, I like Ben Brown, and I do hope maybe he joins Solway one day or comes down to Hull or something, because I'll tell you what, if Hull got him, I think that would be one hell of a signing for them. And I think Ben Brown would be a big addition to any team, but hopefully he's doing all right, and I think he'll tear up the SNL. Yeah, his shot on the SNL will be a fun one to watch. But no, I think it's a bit of a loss for the league really, because he was on a 2-way with Nottingham Panthers as well.
Yeah, as I said, I thought he was so underrated, and he's going to tear up that Scottish league. But he's back home as well. I think that's a big thing for him, and he's playing for Dundee, which was his childhood team, if you want to say that. So yeah, wish him good luck. I hope he comes back to the national one day, like you said, Charlie. I think Solway would be a great little team because they've got a really good defense, or much improved defense this season. But yeah, that is pretty much the news. Pride Week has been announced for the 18th to the 26th, so we'll get to see loads of new jerseys for that. And apart from that, I think that is the news done. So we'll cut to the interview, if we've got one, with Kell Beattie. Hello, welcome back. We've got a very special guest. Charlie, do you want to introduce him?
Yes, we'd like to welcome on our third Northern Irish guest from that pack of people who came through. He's had a very big season in the National League this year. Also won a 2-way with the Belfast Giants, and he's just come off the back of scoring 2 goals in a 2-1 win for the Solway Sharks. We'd like to welcome onto the podcast Kell Beattie. How are you doing?
Good, I'm good. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
I bet that bus journey home on Sunday night was absolutely buzzing.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, the weekend before, first 4-point weekend, so we tried to sort of replicate that, and then obviously this weekend we were coming in with the same sort of idea, and obviously it was a bit tough on Saturday night. We were up the whole game against Telford and then ended up losing in a shootout, and it's obviously a hard pill to swallow off it, obviously, and then when you had to get a job done going down to Romford, it's always a hard place to play. I'm not going to complain about the travel because I've done it a lot when I was younger, but a long travel for us first period they scored quite early as well in the power play, and it was sort of end to end. And then obviously getting that goal myself in the third period with about 10 minutes to go, and then obviously scoring the overtime winner as well. So no, it was a great weekend for us, 3 points out of 4, and then obviously the bus home, long bus home. So majority of the boys all had a few beers and just tried to enjoy ourselves really.
Yeah, sounds good. You were saying off camera, but yeah, do you want to tell everyone what time you ended up getting back to Dumfries?
Yeah, so 7 hour bus back, and I think we got back. I think I got back into my house at about 5:30, 6 o'clock. Maybe. So, obviously, majority of the boys playing in Solway now are all playing full time, but we've got still a few boys at work. But I think they all took the day off anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Um, obviously you got that overtime winner. It was with 9 seconds to go. Do you want to talk us through it? How did the play go?
well, it's actually I was speaking. So, me and Liam Stanton with Olivier was on the ice first, and then Liam was like to me, "Oh, do you want to go?" I was like, "Yeah, I don't mind. Like, I'll go." He was like, "You're gonna go," because obviously I scored quite late in the period with 9 minutes left as well, and he was like, "You're going because you're hot right now." I was like, "All right." Um, it just Nolan done really well in the corner. Stripped the guy of the puck, and I was just all alone in front of the net really, and just tapped it in. Well, I say tap it in. It was I put everything into it just to make sure it would go in. So, I mean, all the boys were elated with it. Obviously, you want to go up there and win, obviously, and then but the last thing we want to do is try and lose a game, and then you're coming back on a bus with 7 hours really.
Yeah.
So, it's always a good feeling to get the extra point and come back down the road with 2 points.
Yeah, go on, Chaz.
That's a proper cool kind of captain play from Liam. How's he been settling in as captain? As kind of that shows already a bit of his captain responsibility, letting the guy who's probably on form that game take the shift.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, Liam's great. I'm quite close with Liam. I've always been close with Liam. He's a few years older than me, so like when I came over to Solway, I played with him 1 year, and then he went to Glasgow, and then he came back. But he's been great with all the boys. He's one of the lads, I would say, and he leads by example. I think that's what I look up to him the most, really. As obviously he's close to the age with me as well, and I think I like him as a captain, and I enjoy him as a captain because he knows when to say stuff. He doesn't say too much, but when he does say something, everyone's listening, and they've got his full respect, really. And he's great. He's great with all the boys. So he is.
Yeah, before we get into this season, we'll take it back to the start. And we actually had Cam on a couple weeks ago. So we kind of learnt a bit from Cam, from him talking about growing up in Belfast and the juniors. But from you being the only D man out of that, the four of yous, what was it like growing up being a defenseman?
Yeah, it was different. You've got the three boys, Mark, Cammy, and Carter, all playing forward, and I think I actually watched Cammy's a bit of the podcast last night, and
nice one.
I was listening to him, and we always pushed each other. That was the main thing. Cameron and Carter's dad, Stevie, and then you've obviously got Mac's dad, Rob, who's the assistant coach for the Giants. So them two always coached us, and they made sure to push us hard. Obviously, you've got some other kids that are in our team, and but we made sure to always push each other, and we would go against each other. Like I always tried to go against them guys just so we could push each other to the potential. But no, it was great. We were training like 4 or 5 times a week. We were playing up a few age groups. Obviously, we're the only team in Belfast as well, so our ice time was valuable, and we just made sure that we were working hard every training session. And obviously, it's a lot different for me because I'm the only defender out of the four of us. So, I mean, for me, I just tried to work hard every session and just try and take on board what the coaches had to say to me. Obviously, I don't come from a hockey background. My dad was a professional footballer, so
really,
yeah, it was a bit different for me. Whereas all them boys came from hockey backgrounds. So, no, I just work hard and try and stick with the program. Really was the main aim for me, and it worked out in the long run.
Well, obviously,
Yeah.
you said your dad was a football player. What made you get into ice hockey then? Why didn't you go down the football route?
So I played football as well.
Yeah.
Um, and then my dad and mum actually took me ice skating one day. I think it was on a Sunday, so it was, and we just went ice skating for like a public session, and then we were leaving and seen all the kids coming in to play hockey, and I said to my mum, we watched it for a bit, and I was like, oh, I'd like to try that. So there was a girl actually on the reception, and she said that the season's just over, but you can sign up for next season. And then I signed up for the next season, trained over the summer, and then started off and learned to play
Yeah.
and moved into the under 10s. And then that's when I met the three boys as well. And we've been best mates ever since. To be fair, I don't think they actually liked me at the start, so they didn't. I tried I wriggled my way into the three of them, and then we ended up becoming best mates, and we're here now, so we are.
Probably saw you weren't half bad and were like, okay, we'll give him a chance.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's what I mean. Like, don't get me wrong, the three of them, they've been skating since they were about 3 or 4. I didn't
Yeah.
start until I was like 6 or 7. So, like, once I made it into the team, I was like, oh, these boys are class. Like, I want to try and fit in with them, and then I ended up getting in with them, and we're all here now, different teams, so it's great.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great.
I was going to ask, I was quite interested in chatting to Cam about kind of the travel you had to do at such a young age, getting the ferry across and all of that sort of thing. How was it for you at a young age, traveling away from your family, getting back late, probably going into school late on Monday mornings, etc.?
Yeah, obviously it takes like it's a huge commitment for us. Like I think not a lot of people realize that, and still to this day, like the Belfast setup, all the parents are hugely committed, so they are, to the cause, and I think that's the main thing. Like people don't realize that the travel for us to play games, like you could be paying anywhere upwards from about 300-400 quid for your child to go play a hockey game, really, and it's huge. Like the travel, you would be getting on the boat 2.5 hours in the boat, and anything up from about 6-7 hours is the longest trip we would be going on just to play a hockey game, and then you'll be coming back the same day to get on the boat and then go home. So, it was don't get me wrong, it was long, but I think we've been doing it from such a young age that I think we're all used to it now. Well, I'm especially used to it. Obviously, being in Solway, it's the furthest place away in the National League, but um. No, it was hard. Don't get me wrong, it was hard, but I think we were so used to it at such a young age, and we would always just keep each other company on the bus, and then obviously you would have school the next day. So my mum was quite lenient with me, and so was the school. So going into school about lunchtime, and just trying to get the work done, really.
One of those kids who get to leave the class early and go hockey training or whatever.
Yeah, that's it. So I was used to just coming in at about lunchtime, and then I would come home, and then we would be training the next day as well. So I was just right back to it as well. I think that's the best thing Belfast has, is that if you're good enough, you'll be able to play up age groups. You know what I mean? And the ice time was so great. We were, like I said, we were training about 4 or 5 times a week, so we were nearly getting that taste of training every day like a professional. And I think that's
Yeah.
what's good about it now, because we've been training so much when we were younger. It's helped in the long run, 100%.
Yeah, go on, Chaz.
100%. And you kind of had, after the COVID year, you kind of had your first taste of men's hockey. It says you played 11 games for Belfast and 22 games for Solway in the National One. How was that going from juniors to men's?
You must have only
Yeah,
been about 16, 17, yeah?
yeah, yeah. I mean, the whole idea was to leave. Obviously COVID came round, and I actually got a message off Jamie Thompson from the Sharks, the assistant coach, and he just said to me, it's because he coached me that year at Scotland, so he did as well.
Yeah.
And he liked me, and spoke to him over the summer, and he put the idea out for me to come over and see what it was like. So I ended up, once COVID passed, I came over and done like sort of, I want to say like a trial for a week and trained with the board sort of thing. And I really enjoyed it, and they put something in place for me, and I was lucky enough the Giants um, rung me as well and sort of just said that they were wanting me to go on a two-way. So I came over here, I think I was 16 or 17 at the time. And then I actually left school early, so it was a bit daunting for me as well. I don't. My mum was a wee bit unsure about it at the time, and had the chat with school, and they were happy enough for me to leave. And obviously, then I trained every day with the Giants, which was unbelievable at that age to be training every day and just get the experience. And then I would go over to Solway on the weekends. I would leave Friday and get over here and then play 2 games every weekend. But it was great. I think it was the best thing for me at a young age. Obviously, that year I was the only one that left, whereas all the other boys were still playing. They decided to play SNL that year over in
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Belfast. So, obviously, it was a huge learning curve for me, and it was the first time I've played for another team really, and it was weird to begin with. Obviously, not playing with the 3 other boys like what I'm used to, but I think like when I look back on it now, and I was speaking to my mum throughout the week there, and we were actually chatting about this, and I think it was the best thing for me really, and it couldn't have worked out any better. Obviously, came over here, and now I'm here 4 years later, and I think that's that keeps bringing me back. I've enjoyed myself so much here, especially from a young age. Um, just trying to enjoy myself and enjoy the hockey and work hard really.
Not a bad little team to go into. Obviously, Solway were quite good in the national one. It's fair to be said, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, to be fair, I didn't know what I was getting myself into, and I knew Solway always had a really good senior setup. And when I came over here, I just wanted to play. Really, that was the main thing. And I wanted to get the taste of men's hockey. And when we came over, I want to say we won 2 or 3 trophies in my first year.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then obviously the second year we won the Grand Slam, which was great. And I want to say I played a huge valuable part in that year. Just playing wise, and I think that's the whole thing. Like I'll say this to anybody or any kid, like there's no point in going and playing somewhere and sitting on the bench every weekend. You know what I mean? Like ice
Yeah.
time's valuable. That was the whole reason of me coming back. Obviously, for my first year in the national, and then now playing in Solway is just that I want to play. That's the main thing, and I know my development is the main thing for myself. So I think that's just the main thing. Obviously, and you want to enjoy your hockey as well. And the coaches here are great to me, and so's John, the owner. Like if I need anything, they'll help me out and sort it out for me. So I think that's just a huge reason why I love it here, and I keep coming back. Really.
Yeah. And then you made the step to GB under 18s that year as well. How was that? Because it was your first GB experience, and there were obviously the other Northern Ireland boys. You got to reunite with them in the 18s as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Obviously, it's a great honor to always play for GB. I think that's the main thing is once you start playing hockey and you realize you're going to get somewhere with it is playing for GB, obviously, and then obviously playing with all the Northern Irish boys, and then all the other best of kids in the UK was great. First World Championships with GB, I enjoyed it so much that I wanted to keep doing it the rest of my life. And I was obviously fortunate enough to do it a few years after that with the 20s as well, 2 years in a row. So, but it was great. Obviously, it was a different way. So it was obviously we were in Estonia that year. Great tournament, great facility, and just for my first GB, I think I was happy enough just to come away with a medal, and I think we done. I think we came third. I think it was we got a bronze medal, so
Yeah.
it was great. And I think the whole just playing for GB just adds the a bit of swagger about to you as well. So no, it was great. I really enjoyed it.
I, that 22-23 season, you played for 5 different teams. Obviously, the GB under-20s, the two Solway teams, bit of a dip into the national with Hull, and then you was with Belfast as well. I believe Belfast won the treble that season. Solway won the quadruple that season. Like that must have been quite a wild year with travel as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, unbelievable year, and it's probably something I'll cherish for the rest of my life. Obviously, I think I was 18 at the time, 18 or 19. So, unbelievable. Obviously, I knew I had a really good team in Solway, and obviously not winning all four trophies the year before. And then we had majority of the guys returning back to the team, and I knew we had a great team, and we ended up going to the final in Coventry and beating Streatham as well.
Yeah,
And
we
then
watched that.
we ended up winning the four trophies, and I think it was in the mixer. The Giants called me up throughout the week because the Challenge Cup's always on a Wednesday, so it is the final. So obviously going home in the final, being in Belfast, all my family were there, and they got the job done. I think I ended up getting a few shifts at the end because we were 3 goals up. So
Nice one.
no, it was great. Honestly, it's something that'll live with me the rest of my life, and I think just the pure enjoyment out of at the end of it with the Giants as well, and then actually after the Streatham final, um, with Solway, I ended up getting an Uber to Nottingham, so I did, because I got called up last minute that morning, and they were like, "Oh, can you make it?" I was like, "Well, like I've got a game at 4 o'clock, so I'll try and make it as much as possible." So I ended up making it just before warm up, so I did, and then obviously just winning it in Nottingham, and then going out after with the boys was an unreal moment. So, like I said, it will be something that'll live with me for the rest of my life.
That quite a crazy weekend. I think that was the first time that weekend where me and Charlie kind of saw you. I think did Liam play in that Coventry final?
No, so that
No,
was the he
I think it
went
was
away.
McBean. I think it was McBean played
Yeah,
in that game.
Jonathan
So
McBean.
it was
He was
you and
sick.
McBean who played in that final against Streatham, and I think that was the first time me and Charlie were like, okay, yeah, these two lads, I think, are pretty good.
yeah. We signed Johnny that year, so Johnny's in Dundee right now, so he is, and
Yeah.
he's doing really well for himself. He's producing as well for them, and he's playing loads of minutes. So Johnny was a great addition to us that year, and he helped us a lot. So he did.
Yeah.
A random one. I may be wrong if my memory's wrong here, but did you get an injury in Hull?
Yeah, got
How was
injured.
that coming into the
Oh,
National League and getting an injury? Because I believe it was a hit. I don't know how my memories remembered this,
yeah.
but how was it coming into the National League, only playing 5 teams for a team you'd never really played before, and then getting an injury there?
It was different for me. I think, obviously, Cam was down in Hull at that point, so they were, and it was their first year in the league, and
Yeah.
obviously in the national one, you don't play as many games in the national as well. So, I think I wanted it when Matty messaged me. I was like, yeah, like I'm up for anything, just to get myself more games really, and I took it and played a few games for them, and it was really good. I enjoyed it. I think I enjoyed playing in Hull, the setup, and all the boys were great. And then obviously I think I played like 5 games for them, so I did. And then uh, obviously my last game for them was when I got injured. I got hit from behind. I can't mind. It might have been against Sheffield, so it was. And then I dislocated my shoulder, so I did. So I went to hospital that night and flew home the next morning. I think I was out for a couple of weeks, but I enjoyed Hull, so I did, and obviously get my first taste of National League. I thought I'd done pretty well, to be honest with you. I adapted quite easy to it. And yeah, I enjoyed the whole atmosphere, and I think it's a lot different the national one, especially then,
Yeah.
especially when I went to Hull. I think it's more structured. It's a lot faster. Everything's a lot cleaner. With like passing and stuff, and I think it suited my game a lot more because I feel like I'm quite a structured player. I know where I need to be at all times, and it was great. Honestly, I think it just gave me that taste. Obviously, when Solway went in the National League, I knew what was going to come at me. Really.
Obviously, the news come out. There's a few rumblings. Were Solway going to come up to the national, and they did. And then I assume you were straight signing for that roster to get a taste, well, full season of that National League.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, you have your talks over the summer. I had a few offers from other teams to go elsewhere, and I didn't know. It was quite unsure at the time with Solway and that whether they were going to go up or not. And then obviously I just tried to keep my options open as much as I could, because I didn't know what was happening really. And then Martin actually messaged me and says, "Look, we're moving up into the league above, and we want you in our team, really." And obviously, I have to think about it. You know what I mean? Like it's the same every year, whether I want to come back and whether it's the best fit for me, really. And I think just the whole, like I said before, like the whole environment here, I get treated so well, and um, I'm I love the organisation as well, and the coaches have full trust in me, especially from such a young age. Coming over here at 16, I was still playing loads,
Yeah.
expected anyway, and I'm 20 now, and I'm playing 30 minutes a night for a National League team and playing power play and penalty kills. So obviously they've got their full trust in me as a young kid to be playing those minutes, and I think that's why I always come back. Like I said, I enjoy it here. So no, I think it was just the best fit for me at the time, and yeah, it was great.
Go on, Chaz.
Then, and how did you find the first year for Solway? Because it wasn't a bad year to start off the National League. It was a competitive year. It was a very good year of National League hockey, I probably would say, in terms of up and down the league. It was a strong season. How was it for you? You got 15 points in 46 games, and you picked up 99 pims as well. So you had a fun year.
Yeah, obviously it was great. Obviously to get the full year in the National League. I feel like obviously I knew what it was going to be like. Obviously with Hull when I was there when their first year, and I knew there was going to be lots of ups and downs throughout the season, and obviously it wasn't the way we wanted it to go, and obviously we brought back a lot of boys that sort of got us into that National League with like all the National One players really, and I think it was sort of just a repay to them boys just to say thank you as well. And I totally don't disagree with it at all, because them boys have been there for so many years and got all of us this boys at this point. So don't get me wrong, it was disappointing because the season finished so early. I've never finished that early in my life, so I haven't. So it was a bit hard when it came to that. But I thought we'd done all right. Obviously it came right down to the wire on the last weekend, first to make playoffs, and we were away to Bees that night, I think it was, and
I think we were at that game actually.
Yeah, obviously we lost, and it was a hard pill to swallow, especially for me, just as a young guy, and finishing that early, and just seeing the disappointment on the rest of the boys' faces, especially your older boys like Craig Peacock, and obviously your Struan Toners and Ross Murray's, who have been there with the Sharks their whole lives, and we knew it was their last season, obviously, and it was horrible for just to see how they felt really. But I feel like it just fueled me up for this season really, and obviously we had a rough patch at the start of the season, and I know it happens for every team. It comes at some stage in the season.
Yeah.
Obviously, to get it out of the way at the start of the season, I think it was the best thing that happened to us. And then obviously going 4 points last weekend and 3 points this weekend, I think it's a huge turnaround for us. I feel like obviously we haven't made much changes to the team this year. Obviously, we've got Jordan Moran, who's been exceptional for us this year, and he's been a great addition. And then we've got Joe Coulter as well. It's playing on the third line centre with two young kids as well. It's been great for us, and I think it's just boys have been more adaptive this year, and obviously the majority of the boys played all last year, so they know what's to come every night really. And I think from now we can just push on. Really, obviously, we can compete with every team. We know that with the Leeds, your MKs, your Swindons
Oh,
as
yeah.
well. Like we know we've got the team to do it, and I think just trying to get over the hurdle really is the main thing for us.
I think me and Charlie just said that first season for any team to come into the league, and their first season, I think just be competitive, and you guys were competitive. I think you had a tough start last season, but
Yeah,
then you were matched a lot of teams. I think you beat every single team that season. So I think coming into this season, you're all a year older. You've got that experience. You've done the bus journeys, and it's kind of reaping the rewards. It's just that the league has actually got so much more competitive because I think if you'd have performed the way you've performed this season, last season you'd be in a playoff spot easily. But I think it
yeah,
just shows the level of how the Nationals come this season as well.
yeah, absolutely. We were speaking about this yesterday as well. We were coming home from the gym, me, Lewis Young, and Mason were speaking about this, about how much, especially just in 1 year for us boys, like we feel like the league's so much more competitive. Like we look at the scores every night, and
Oh mate,
teams are beating every night, and teams are going to overtime with the higher up teams and stuff like that, and it's great. It's great for us. That's what we want to see as well. It just makes it more fun every night to play because you know you're going to be in a hockey game every night, really. And I think that's what I enjoy about playing in this league so much. It's so competitive, and you don't know what the outcome's going to be every night for your team, really. And obviously, you hope to win every night, but if you take an off night off now, I feel like you're going to get absolutely destroyed. So I think it's great for the league, and
Yeah. Yeah,
cool,
I
Jazz.
couldn't agree. I couldn't agree more. To be fair, because I do think the National League's taken that step up. A player I had to ask about from Solway is one me and Dan absolutely love. He's had a bit of a kind of like big year this year. It is your roommate Mason Alderson, and we were laughing about him because in warm up, he just dances.
yeah.
He literally just dances, and we just want to know what is he like. He must be
Oh,
mental.
honestly, if I could tell you some of the stories that I have about him, honestly, I would, but I need to keep it PG. But honestly, he's the best roommate ever and best teammate, and I've got a friend for life now. Obviously, I met him last year. He came over to the Giants training camp, so he did, and I was I knew of him obviously from conference and that.
Yeah, he was
Yeah,
unreal.
like I remember watching him. Obviously, he's a few years older than me, and he would always light up conference. And I was like, he went away for a couple of years, and I was like, oh, I don't really know what he's like now. And he came to the Giants training camp, and we just hit it off instantly. So we did. Obviously, younger guys in the team, you tend to go towards each other a bit more. And obviously, I knew he was signing in Solway that year. So, but honestly, great lad. I love him to pieces. So I do. And probably the most funniest guy I've ever met. He's just he brightens up the room every day. Walks into it, so he does, and look, he enjoys himself. That's the main thing, and he's having a great year this year. And he's loose all the time, so he is.
I
And
don't know how he does it.
nah, no,
I've never seen a guy. We were watching the warm up, and sadly, I wasn't a massive fan of him against when he played us against Swindon
Oh, he
because
was the
that
best player
probably
for
was his
you lot.
best weekend of the season. But in warm up before that game, he was just dancing around.
yeah. No, no.
Oh,
He's like that every day. So he is. It's just not on the ice. He's just himself really, and he's like that in the change room as well. And I stand there and watch him. I end up standing there and watching him for about 5 minutes just to see what he's doing because if there's music he likes on, he's always dancing or
Same,
he's
yeah.
flying about the ice, doing spins, and I mean. I'll give it credit to him because he's playing well, you know what I mean? And I sort of just let him do what he wants, really. So, but he's great, honestly. I love him to pieces, and he's actually he's coming over to Belfast this year for Christmas with my family, so that'll be good
Oh,
as well.
it's one of them where he's had quite a few tough injuries at such a young age, and I think this season he come into the season. He had an injury last season, didn't he? And this season he come in and he has just been lights out, power forward, skills. The goal he scored against Swindon was an absolute joke. And yeah, you could just see the level he's playing at. I think you almost missed that last year when he was injured, and I think a big part of him being in this team this year, he's in that top six role for you. He's another player for teams to worry about.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, I knew the potential he had. Honestly, like the sky's the limit for him. Really. Obviously watching him when he was younger, confidence in that, but picked up an injury last year. And then obviously a couple of years before that, he was gonna stop playing hockey altogether,
Yeah.
which is unbelievable to think about. He tore his Achilles, so he did, and it's. I was speaking to him the other night about it, and he was saying to me like career-ending injury, and majority of the people don't come back from it. And but no, obviously it was hard for him last year. Obviously living with him last year as well, he was going through the injury, and it was tough to see because I knew the potential he had.
Mm.
And then I think obviously this season, him signing back, I think he knew what he had to do and knew what he was sort of going into. And then obviously this year he's been lights out for us. He's came out of the gates flying, and I think he's probably up there with one of the best British players in the league, really. And he's producing every night for us, and he's an absolute machine as well. He can blow guys up, he can score, he can fight, you know what I mean? And I think he's just the all round typical hockey player that every team would want. So I mean it's great to have him on our team because I wouldn't like to play against him. Absolutely not, because I knew if I play against him now, he would just try and absolutely smoke me every night. So no, it's great, and he's a great lad, and I wouldn't want to room with anyone else really.
You mentioned fights. When we come down to Solway, you had a little scrap with Britnell, and Britnell's not a small lad either. So fair play. What was that all about?
You know, I think it was just one of them. It was one of them ones. Obviously, they called. I think it was an icing or an offside, and he shot the puck at the goalie really. And you know, I'm not. I would say I'm not one to fight, but obviously, it stuff happens really, and shot the puck after the whistle, and I sort of just grabbed him, and we grabbed each other, and sort of a few punches exchanged, and then the gloves were dropped really, and it was my first sort of senior fight. I want to say I fought in juniors, but it doesn't really count with a cage on like that sort of thing. But no, obviously I didn't know until after that he was quite a tough customer. Obviously, he fought in the elite league and that, and all the boys were saying after it. And I know myself, I can sort of handle myself pretty well. But when you're coming up a guy that's really a lot heavier on you, stronger, and he sort of knows what to do in them situations, you're sort of just like, oh. But I think that's what the good thing was at the time, that I didn't know sort of who he was. Obviously, I knew he was in court, but I didn't know how tough he was. So I think obviously it helped him a favour, but I just tried to land a few punches and then my guard up just so I didn't get punched myself, really.
You scored on that power play actually, so, or that straight afterwards.
Straight after it, yeah. So it was. I
It was
mean,
your roommate. You must have fired up your roommate.
yeah, it was obviously. It was a good momentum shift for us. I didn't, like I said, I didn't expect it to come. Obviously, you don't really know when your first fight's gonna come, but I mean, I got the boys fired up. Obviously, we scored straight after it, so I mean, I think I've done a good job at it. So I'll take it.
Go on, Chaz.
I wanted to mention about kind of this year. It feels like, as with Mason, he's taken a step up. I think you've taken a huge step up, and we talked about on the pod, which we've recorded before this interview. It feels like the top three D men for Solway are a huge factor in the way they play. The way with you, especially when we watched you against us, your role is to carry the puck into the zone, and you've got the wheels to do that. You've got the ability to do that. And how have you felt this year your game has improved? Because I think it's clear to see from a fan's perspective, you're a better player than you were last year.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just more confidence, really. I think more confident in my own game. Even when I go back and play in Belfast, I played a few pre-season games for them. I think it's just, as I get older now, I'm just a lot more matured, and the confidence has came on, and just trusting my own ability, really. You know, I'm a good player, and I know I can help the team out when I can, and I think just being trusting my own ability really, and I know going into every night I've got the capability to do whatever I want really, because the coaches have given me full trust really. So I feel like I don't want to put my team. It's I don't really know, but I don't want to put the team on my back necessarily. Obviously, we've got a load of great other players, but I know that my ability can take me so far. And obviously, the game against Swindon, I thought I had a really good game, especially on the Saturday night. Just obviously, I know I can carry the puck. My speed helps me a lot, so it does. Just trying to get into the zone and try and get a play out of it, really. And obviously, you've got your attributes for a reason, and I would say speed's probably my best one because I'm probably the fastest guy in the team. So, but it's great. Obviously, it's what I want to do, and as long as it helps the team out and we're winning every weekend, it doesn't bother me. Obviously, I feel like I've had I want to say a slow start to producing the team, and I was struggling mentally with it at the start of the season, and but obviously the weekend past, scoring 2 goals, I feel like it's a turnaround for me now, and I just hope I can help myself in the long run. Obviously, like I said, as long as we keep winning games and we're pushing for playoff spots and this, that, and the other, I'm happy enough. You know what I mean? And it's just great to be a part of the team as well.
What's it like playing on the Solway ice pad? Because it's quite a different ice pad to a lot of them in the league, because you've got massive zones, but then the neutral zone
Yeah,
is very small and it only
right.
takes a couple strides to just get from one zone to another. So how have you found adapting to that? And because you've played for Solway for years now, so I'm sure you've got used to playing in Dumfries.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, the neutral zones are huge, so they are, and then you've got your neutral zones tiny, so it is obviously when you're lining up for a face off, you might as well be taking the face off yourself, really. But I think obviously that's all down to they've done that through the IHF regulations, so they can hold world championships in
Yeah.
that. So it is. But no, I love the ice here. I feel like anytime any team comes to play in Solway, it's always going to be a hard night for them because we're so good on we're so good on our home ice. So we are, I think that's why, and the ice is great as well. The rink do a great job of keeping it perfect for us. So, but it's great. I love playing here. Obviously the rink, the facilities, everything around us is unbelievable. And like I says, I feel like any team that comes into Solway, they're always going to have a tough night here. So they are, because we're so good on home ice, really. And I think that's what I enjoy about it so much, is because it's like a fortress nearly for every team to come in. So we know we're gonna bring it to them, really. So that's the good thing about it.
Yeah.
One of the things I just wanted to you touched on it nearly at the start, but I wanted to bring him back up was Jordan Marr. Because I think he has been a huge part of Solway's success this year. And I think I said to Jack in more recent weeks, your games haven't been quite as high scoring as they were at the start of the year. I think Jordan's definitely got better, and I think so has kind of the team structure. And I think that showed in the last game where Jordan Marr put on a bit of a show, I think, by the sounds of it.
44 out of 45, I think he saved.
Yeah.
Which is a bit gross. But how's Jordan been in the team? How's he helped? He's an experienced goalie who's played at the top levels, and obviously he came off the back of a playoff win, which isn't too bad, with I think a 9-5 over the whole playoff series.
Yeah, obviously, absolutely. I think he's been, like I said earlier, the changes we've made. Obviously, it's only been two, but I think obviously bringing Jordan in, it just brings that extra more depth to us. Obviously an experienced goalie like him, and he's so. I think he's up there with one of the best goalies in the league. He's great for us, honestly, and I think it's just that he has that ability because we know in him and we trust him enough that he's going to keep us in a game every night, no matter what. Obviously he's a great goalie and he's experienced. Obviously he's in a younger team this year with all of us. But I think he enjoys it. He enjoys playing with us, and he's a great lad. So he is. He was sitting beside me on the bus on the way home, having a few beers on Sunday night.
Oh,
So
nice.
I got chatting to him and that. But he's been great for us, honestly. And I think that as long as we have him in our team, he's gonna give us a chance to win every night. So he is.
We could mention so many more players, but I think we do have to mention Gardner. What's it been like playing alongside him? Because Yeah, I have to say this before this season, I was like, is he going to be able to keep up the goals? Like he scored, I think, what was it, 50 last year? Is he
Yeah,
going to be able to replicate that? He's already got 21 goals this season, a goal a game.
yeah,
How's he been and linking up with John as well, who's an elite playmaker?
yeah, absolutely. Obviously, him coming in last season, obviously the year before Solway, only when you're playing in the national one, you're only allowed at one import. So
Yeah.
obviously three imports in this league's a huge help to every team. Um, but he's been great. So he has obviously he came in from U Sports, so he did. He played in Windsor, and what was actually the funny thing is I was speaking to him about this the other week. I was like, "Have you always been like a natural goal scorer? Like you played in the OHL and obviously played in U Sports as well." And I asked him, "Have you always been like a natural goal scorer?" And he says, "No." He says
Oh,
when he
really?
says when he played in Windsor and that he was like a third liner. He just grinded it out, killed penalties and stuff. And I asked him, I was like, so where's it all came from really? And he was like, honestly, I couldn't tell you. It's clicked for me at the right time. So he has obviously starting off his professional career and his
Yeah.
first year he gets 50 goals and um a huge credit to him because he's the one that's scoring majority of the goals for us, and that's what you're expecting out of your top end ports as well. Obviously, you need guys to chip in here and there, but that's what you're wanting. Every team wants a player like him, great guy off the ice, and I think that's the majority of the reason why they signed. Obviously, Nolan and Olivier is the first thing they wanted to know if they're good team guys and great guys as well, and
Yeah.
I couldn't ask for two better imports. Obviously, great guys, and they get along with everyone as well. And I think obviously they enjoy it here as well. They wouldn't have came back for a second year if they didn't enjoy it. So, but they're great. Obviously, the product that both of them bring to the team on the ice is second to none, really. And obviously, you've got Olivier as well. That's my D partner, and um, I feel like both of them could probably make the step up to Elite League if they wanted
Oh,
to.
yeah.
100%. I think obviously the timing, obviously there's taking time to adjust to things over here. Obviously, I think it took them, especially Nolan, obviously it took him a bit to adjust to over here.
It did, yeah.
So it was quite obviously I don't want to say he was slow at the start, but it took a bit of time for him to get going. And then when he started scoring, it was just one after the other constantly. So it was, and then it was the same as John Dunbar as well. Well, I obviously knew he was gonna. He's a great player, so he is, and I think he's just got the ability to slow the game right down. So he does. And obviously three great additions to the team, and it gives you an extra chance to win every night, really. So it does.
Yeah. I remember you said right at the start about how you just want to keep playing, improving. Obviously, you've got this two-way with Belfast. I've got two questions. Firstly, what does that two-way include? I'm sure it includes like training and being around some of the Belfast team. And then two, is that why you've fully committed a lot to Solway? So because you're only 20 years old, like you're still playing loads, and as you said, you're getting upwards of 30 minutes of ice time a week as well.
Yeah. So the first question. So in my first 2 years, I came over to Solway. I was still living at home, so I was living at home, training with the Giants every day, and then coming over on the weekends. And then I made the step to move over here last year, which was a huge thing for me. Obviously, just trying to get the first taste of living away from home and living properly, professionally, without my mum and dad sort of behind me, and it's been great. So, but this year, and especially last year, I'm obviously living over here now, and you just when I'm on the two with the Giants, you can get called up at any point. So you nearly need to be ready and just make sure your body's right at all times because
Yeah.
obviously the Elite League play a lot more games and midweek games as well. So you can get called up at any point. So you just need to watch what you're doing as well, and obviously watch what you're eating. But
Yeah.
no, it's been great. The two ways helped me out a lot, 100%. So it has, and I think it's the best thing that I've done really. Um, and then what was the second question
It
again?
was just about obviously there's some players who go to the elite league and don't play, but you've spoke about how you just want to be playing games and getting minutes, and I think that's really benefited you at Solway.
Yeah, obviously 100%. I think it's the one thing I say every year to my mum and dad. I'll say to teams, I'm like I would love to come and play for your team, but I want to know if I'm going to play. And obviously, that's hard for a coach to tell you that
Yeah.
before the season's even started that yeah, you're going to play loads or that. And I think that's why it's always brought me back to Solway, because I know the coaches very well. I know they trust me. I can trust them. So when they say something to me, I know they mean it, sort of thing. And like I said, the ice time's valuable. I say that to any kid or anyone. I said to my younger brother as well. I was like, there's no point in you being somewhere if you're not going to play, you know what I mean?
Mm.
And I think that's always the downfall that some kids take, and they jump at the first offer as well, especially moving up to Elite League. Like, you know,
Yeah.
in your first season, you're not going to play much, sort of thing. And I think that's always the scare factor people have as well. But you've also got the factor of, oh, I'm playing for an elite league team. And don't get me wrong, it's great because you're getting the experience, the
Oh, yeah.
bench experience, and you're getting a few minutes here and there, and the taste of living a proper professional life and training every day with some of the best players in Europe. So, but it's great. Like it's unbelievable, and I just like I said, I want to play and enjoy my hockey really, because as you guys know, your hockey career is not that long, so I want to enjoy every minute as I can.
And you're still young yourself as well.
Yeah,
On
and to
Chaz.
follow that up, I was just going to ask, have you got a goal for your career? You're only 20, I know, and it's probably take it season by season. That's what most players say.
Yeah.
Have you got a future goal to play in the elite league, or is it just see how the development goes?
Yeah, I'll say my goal is to one day hopefully play full time in the elite league, probably for the Giants. I want to say I don't want to favour them too much, but no, I know. Like I try and push myself every day. That's the main thing. Like I know what I need to do to get better every day, and it's just having the right mindset for it. But I mean, the sky's the limit for myself as long as I keep working hard. I want to, like, if it's past the elite league to go leagues higher in Europe, like that's what I want to do. I've got no set goal really on how far I want to get. Obviously, I said the sky's the limit as long as you keep your head down and keep working. But the main aim is obviously just to play in the elite league and that, and I just sort of make a name for myself. Obviously, with is it with the Giants or if it's with anyone else, I want to be known as a player that's always been a steady defender and you can rely on him, and obviously, hopefully, chip in here and there for our team and win trophies as well. You know, you play hockey to win trophies and win games, and that's the main thing I want to do.
Yeah. And you guys are looking, you've got 3 games in hand on top. It's early days in it. We're not even halfway
Yeah.
through the season, but I think the playoff battle is going to be really good this season. Before you finish with your question, Charlie, I got one more. Was there any players you looked up to in the NHL or when you were growing up in Belfast? Any defensemen who you tried not replicate your game off, but who you really liked?
Um, I don't know. I wouldn't say the NHL. I don't watch the NHL enough.
Really?
Yeah, like I would watch highlights now and again if I'm eating my
Yeah.
food and that. Obviously you've got top class defenders in the NHL. You've got your likes of Eric Carlson, your Mo Siders, your Quinn Hughes, and
Yeah.
obviously the young kids that are coming in now, like your Lane Hudsons that are crazy skilled on defense on the blue line, and it's almost scary to watch. But I think just obviously watching Belfast my whole life, and then obviously getting a chance to train with them, I feel like I probably look up to one guy, and it's Griffin Reinhardt, his brother Sam Reinhardt, that plays in the
Oh,
NHL.
really? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it was I want to say my first or second year in Belfast. Giants actually signed him from the KHL, so they did, and he was great with me. I played quite a lot that season, got called up, and anytime I got called up, I was playing with him.
Oh, wow.
He was great with me, honestly, and he would stay out after training. I think that's what grew me quite close to him, and he was a great guy. He stayed out after training with me, and he helped me in the small things. You know what I mean? The small things that he's learned over time that help you in your game so much that some people don't realize. And he was a great guy, and obviously an unreal defender. I think he got drafted, I want to say, the first round.
He got drafted 4th overall.
Yeah,
by the Islanders.
yeah, 4th overall. So it's like, you know, crazy to think, especially when he came in that year. I'm like, holy smokes, like this guy's the real deal sort of thing. And he was great with me, honestly. And I couldn't have asked for a better guy to look up to at that point. And just a huge role model as well for me. Obviously, a young kid, sorry, from Northern Ireland to be looking up to a guy that's been drafted over fourth overall in the NIHL is crazy to think. So, but he was great with me, and I have huge respect for him.
Nice one. Go on, Chaz.
So the final message, we went down there on the double header and they were great fans. So what is your message to the Solway Shark fans?
Keep doing what you're doing. You're great every week for us. Obviously that we're getting more numbers in every weekend, which is great. And just keep doing what you're doing, loud and proud. Always seem to piss the away fans off somehow, and the away teams off. But no, they're great. And make sure you buy your tickets, as John Strange would want me to say, and make sure to fill the tank for this weekend. Obviously, we're away in MK on Saturday and then home to MK on Sunday. So big weekend and big reunion with a few of the boys as well. It'll be good to see them. Haven't seen them in a long while. Well, majority of them from summer. So it'll be nice to see them boys and get a proper chat with them and maybe a beer as well. So
I think one of the best bits about Solway is the bar afterwards. No matter what happens,
yeah.
You have a drink at the bar. All the fans are lovely, and you know what the Scots are like. They love a drink as well. So yeah, thank you very much, Kell, for hopping on. And yeah, good luck this weekend and for the rest of the season.
Cheers, guys. I appreciate it. Thanks very much.
Back, whether we had the interview or not. If we did, thank you, Kell, for hopping on. If it isn't in this one, I'm sure we'll get an interview with him at some point. But yeah, appreciate that if you did hop on. Let's hop into the games then this weekend. And the first game on the schedule list is the game I was at. The Swindon Wildcats against the Sheffield Steel Dogs. Now, the Swindon Wildcats having another double away fixture. Quite a weird schedule for them this season so far. We've had just one game weekends at home, then we've had double away, then we've had another double away. And it was quite a flat game, if I'm being honest. Obviously, being there, two teams, Sheffield missing quite a few players. And I think, did you watch the stream, Charlie? You watched the stream, didn't you, Charlie? It just, first period was quite flat. Obviously, 0-0, nothing really happened, which was major. There wasn't too many chances. I thought both teams just cancelled each other out defensively. And I think that was the story of the whole game, really.
Yeah, it was very flat. Nothing happened, really. And I don't know, it felt like Swindon played quite cautious. I thought Sheffield played what they exactly needed to do. Sheffield, if people didn't know, were missing Ripley and Uric to the Elite League two-way. They're missing Morgan Clark-Pizzo to what I'm guessing is an injury. They're missing Tate Shudra as well. That's four big players. That was two third liners, but Pizzo would be the next guy to take the next spot in the top six, and then so would Shudra be the next guy. So it's big. It was big for them, and I think Swindon had to go into that game and win it. That's no disrespect to Sheffield, but we were a full strength Swindon team, and I'd expect a fully strength Swindon team to win that game. But we just were quite flat for the whole game, and I think that summed up in the last minute. But credit to Sheffield, I thought that's the best game I've watched Trombley play against Swindon. I've watched him play 3 times now, including the preseason game, and that was by far his best game. Whenever he was on the ice, Sheffield were the best team. Whenever Swindon were on the ice, whenever Malas was on the ice, Swindon were the best team. They were by far the best 2 players on the ice that night. Halfors looked really, really good, and Nordstrom looks like he's getting back to it. His reactions seemed quicker. He was on it a lot more, and that line of Nordstrom, Halfors, and Tremblay, on paper it looks good, and it is good in real life as well. No, I thought it was a weird game where Swindon just couldn't really get out of gear 2, but I think Sheffield played into that. I thought Sheffield flattened the game out, played a tactical game, and another shout out goes to the 2 Sheffield third line wingers, Mini Brammer and Kutz.
Ben Cutts and Jacob Brammer.
Yeah, they were class. They did their job. Considering they haven't played too much National League, they just skated their ass off. They checked, and they actually got some good chances on that third line. But disappointing result for Swindon, to be honest. But a big result for Sheffield to take that win against a top team at home with 4 players out is a big result. Well, 5 if you count the goalies as well.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It should have gone overtime, really. Obviously, if there's anyone in that Sheffield team who's going to be able to do that in the last seconds, it is Walker Sommer. He is so quick. We've seen it so many times, Dan, this season. He is the one guy on that team you cannot give an ounce of space to because he'll squeeze a shot in at any angle. He's got one of the quickest shots. I think I was speaking to Ben Norton. Shout out Ben Norton as well. I had a chat with him. Hopefully he'll be back soon. But yeah, he was saying like he's got one of the hardest shots. He's got obviously Ben Norton trains with a lot of the Steelers lads, and Walker Sommer's got harder shots than a lot of them boys as well. And that one just squeezed past Rennie. I think Swindon will probably want to keep that one out, take it to overtime, but that's hockey, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah, 100%. It can be heartbreaking. But yeah, Walker Sommer's such a clever player. I think he scored a hat trick on the first time we saw him in that preseason game against Leeds. I think the first time we watched, and he does great stuff out of nothing. And imports in this league, they can do that. They can do that now. You can get these players that do just like Charlie said in the group chat. He said he didn't really notice Summer a lot in the game.
No, he was really quite. That was his only moment, to be fair, and that's why you got him.
and that's it. And then 8 seconds to go, and he goes and gets the winner. And it's just like things like that. Is just why this import quality is so important, and the imports that you sign are so important because you bring these imports in, and they can do that. And that's what you want from your imports. And yeah, he's an unreal player, and he's having an unbelievable season as well.
It was a tough result for Swindon. We'll talk about the Sunday game because that was a really big bounce back from the boys. The second game of the weekend saw the Solway Sharks against the Telford Tigers, and the Tigers just kept rolling. They win on penalty shots, and of course, it was David Thompson who got the shootout winner. Him and Henderson are just a joke. They're on another level. They got 2 points each again on that game. Alderson got another couple. He's been really impressive this season. But yeah, I think it's from what it sounds like. It just sounds like 2 really good teams going at it. Late goals. Telford getting a late equaliser, Dan. And I think from what it seems like both teams did deserve a point.
Yeah, and that's the ring where Telford has struggled in as well.
Yeah.
So I've always seemed to have the upper hand at home against Telford, and obviously Telford going up there, long slog up there, and yeah, and those imports really have changed that team. They've come into that team, and yeah, we've said it probably about 3 podcasts in a row now, but yeah, those imports are something special, and I think that's just what Telford needed to get that buzz again, and yeah, getting these wins on the road is only going to be good for this team, and getting a gritty penalty shootout win is nothing to complain about. And Tommy Watkins will just be trying to keep his team level, just trying to keep them level headed going into these games now. Now that they've started to run and hit a bit of form, and yeah, they're just going to keep going for it now.
Yeah, it was not a flat game, but 32 shots to 28. It just seemed like quite an even game, and maybe Solway will be a bit disappointed they couldn't quite do it on home ice after taking the lead with less than 5 minutes to go. But that's credit to Telford, and I think it just shows again, mentality-wise, it is just about confidence through the whole team. And when those 2 new imports have come through the door, it's just changed the whole mentality. And maybe at the start of the season, that probably doesn't go Telford's way, and they probably get beat in that game. So fair play to Telford for getting that win. We know the shootout is a bit of a lottery, a bit of a skills competition. We've always said that. The Bristol Pitbulls, Charlie, as you said, with Jay King coming in, they're starting to pick up these results, and they got another big win on Saturday. It was a game which they probably needed to win, especially with the Bees being quite short benched. And Tanner Butler, again, just show it. He's having a really strong season. He gets the first 2 goals of the game, and then he assisted the game-winning goal for Nick Price as well. Yeah, they are just ticking along, aren't they? Especially at home, they're showing that they are not a team to mess with. They're not going to be easy to beat this season.
Interesting. I don't know. Tell me if I'm being a weird comparison here, but tell me if you think it's right. Bristol this year are reminding me of Bees last year. A little bit. With Tanner Butler makes it slightly different. but they play a top line heavy hockey where they do rely on their top two players to score them points, Price and Harewood.
Yeah.
And then they have their kind of complement player, which is either Smethan or Hamill, who plays on that top line. And then kind of the second and third line are almost similar to each other, and they just grind and get points. And then their decor just does its job. It works hard with a very flashy Tanner Butler in there, who is on smoke this year. He is playing the same way he played to start last season, but on a better team. And we always said if they can get that Tanner Butler, they're in the money. And they have got that Tanner Butler, and that may be because they've given him a C on his shirt. I don't know, but whatever Barry McKenzie's doing, keep feeding Tanner Butler that, because he's working well right now. And then they've got the kind of the pieces of the puzzle which just seem to be working. Like, I don't know if you saw Hamill played top line that game. And he picked up 2 points. So Smethan was playing another line. I think Lipsy scored a point in one of the games.
He scored, yeah.
And so they're just chipping away at the moment. And they've got to try not be disheartened, because it seems like every other team in the same area as them is chipping away as well.
It's very competitive.
Solway had a decent weekend. They had a very good weekend, Solway. Talford had another good weekend, and they're all in that playoff mix. And I will say this: it's looking like if you don't pay attention too much, and teams like Hull, Talford and Solway are gonna slowly pick up on you. It's quite crazy how that's come around. So credit to Bristol. They're doing really well, and they're proving me wrong.
Yeah, I think the fact. You've obviously have Gabai and Balaz on the Bees, but I think, Dan, you've got Napier in goal, who's almost your insurance kind of guy you're going to fall back on in some of those games. And I think he made, if we're looking at the stats, he made another 39 saves on that game. So you've always got that Napier to rely on of that like defensive load, and that. But Nick Price is doing so well being the only import forward. He's actually overperforming to what I thought he would be.
Well, yeah, you say you got obviously Balaz and Gabai, but then you've got Harewood and Price.
Yeah,
obviously.
Yeah. Harewood is like an
really
import
working
for
well
them,
together.
really.
Yeah,
that's why I kind of compared it, because it is like 2 players on their top line, and you're like, are they going to slow down? And they just don't.
Because Harewood's got.
I can see what you mean about.
Sorry, Harewood's got 35 points in 21 games as a Brit. That is phenomenal.
And then I can see what you mean, obviously, about having a complement player like Ross Bottom was obviously Smethan and Hamill. So I can see what.
And then their bottom 6 is just hard-working players like Stead, and I don't know. It just comes across quite similar to.
I think what Bristol have done this year is this off-season they've taken a lot of risks, and I think they had to. Like they did have to change their locker room, and they took a few risks. Brought a few players in that obviously might not have been of the quality, and then they sort of bring them in, sort of just chuck them out there, and I think they're just getting really high reward from it. I think this off-season they had to do that. They had to make that move because they couldn't go into this season the same as they finished off last year, and so they've had to sort of chuck a few people out, bring a few people in that just sort of want to be there and just want to fight for their spot and just want to fight with their career and just sort of push themselves on. And I think it's just sort of given a really high reward right now. I think Barry's just going to have to keep feeding it, like Charlie said, and just keep going with it and just keep it rolling, because this team is a big momentum team. And if you can keep these young players happy, keep them firing, then you're going to get good results.
A bit like the Bees last season, they also don't have any pressure on them because their expectation wasn't really to get playoffs. Their team expectation, all the players will want to get playoffs, but a lot of the fans, I think, they took a regression in terms of the team, like individuals, you could say, but they're just playing the game and they're playing their way, and they know that maybe they're not the favourites going into a lot of the games, but they're just grinding out these results. And I'll always go back to what you and Hill said at the start of the season. The home games, they want to make it so it will not be an easy night every single game for every team who comes and plays them. And then the away games, they'll try and pick off points now and again. I think that's exactly what they've done so far this season. So, but it is, Charlie, as you said, it is not unfortunate, but the teams around them, like last season, there was 3 teams which were doing quite poor, But this season, there's 10 teams, and the Bees are keeping it up as well. They're keeping going, even though they've got 13, 14 skaters. So it is just much more competitive. One last shout out, actually, to Josh Paul, 16 years old, his first goal in the National League. Obviously, we've seen him a couple times. He got that assist against Swindon. For 16 years old, Charlie, to be able to do that at this level, I can't really remember the last 16-year-old to score in our league. He must be in there for one of the youngest players to score in the National.
One sec. I'm getting a call and it's bugging out my laptop, so speak to Dan.
Yeah, that's all right.
That assist was against Bristol.
What do you mean?
The Josh Paul assist.
Oh, sorry, it was against Bristol, not Swindon. Yeah, no, you're right. But
he deserves getting points against Bristol.
Yeah. But that's the thing. Like, I can't remember the last time that young of a player managed to pick up some decent points.
I mean, you got Hemmings Mayer. I think for Basingstoke, he got a few points at 16. But yeah, I think it'll be a very, very little amount.
Yeah.
I think, but the thing is, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get these young players coming up, and there are some really good young players coming up now. And I think the stuff that you got like Ozone and stuff, I think that's going to improve all these players. And I mean, it's really good for British hockey, and the fact that they can bring these players up and that they're managing to get these opportunities as well. I think the NIHL is really going in a good direction in that way.
Yeah.
He's a Cardiff Academy graduate. And I was from speaking to Cardiff fans, sorry, randomly to butt in. From speaking to Cardiff fans, Cardiff is a really hard place to develop in hockey because the Cardiff Fire, no offense to them, they get destroyed in the National 1 most weeks. The Cardiff Canucks are National 2, and then the nearest National League team's about an hour and a bit away. So if you're a 16-year-old, you have to get someone to transport you and stuff. So the fact that he's getting this opportunity in a National League team is huge for his development, and it's to see some Welsh players thrive, like Bailey Harewood, like Josh Paul, because it is quite difficult to break out of that Cardiff system because there's no National League team to develop you into.
Yeah, that's true. We see a lot more Scots, I think, go through the ranks.
Only one Welsh team in there, so there's only one place to play hockey in Wales.
Yeah, that is true. But it was a big win for Bristol.
On that one, D side as well.
Yeah, fair play though to Bees. I think they only had 14 skaters again out there. 2 of them were netminders, so it is really tough for Bees at the moment. The Peterborough Phantoms, their win streak has come to an end at home. We said, would they make a run like Milton Keynes? But that is so tough. The 9 wins in a row, fair play to him. But the Romford Raiders, Dan, 3 goals in less than 10 minutes to open the scoring. And yeah, Peterborough tried to make a little comeback, but I think it was just too much to handle. And fair play to Romford. They were doing that without Leishram, obviously, who's been injured and he's come back, but he's also just taking a rest on the side as well. And then without Shaw Miller, who's been their best player this season, and they go to a really tough place in Peterborough and still pick up 2 points.
Yeah, I think they started the game off perfectly. That's how you start off in Peterborough. You want to get those quick goals, and we saw it obviously with Peterborough v Swindon the last weekend. If you get on to Peterborough quick, you can sort of get a few goals in bunches, and Romford are the best team at doing that this year. They love getting goals in bunches against any team. So going into Peterborough is always tough, but yeah, getting that 3-goal lead is quite big in the first 10 minutes. So they sort of started off the game well, and then another team that really loves momentum, they just kept building on that. And I think the fact that Peterborough were at home, I think that played in their advantage and why they sort of nearly got that comeback. I think if that would have been in Romford, that could have been a much different score.
Yeah, but Peterborough had 48 shots again. Ethan James facing another workload on that Saturday night, but he did save 44 of them, so fair play to him. Fair play to Romford. I was just looking at their lineups, missing quite a few players there, 9 forwards and 6D, so a really big effort from them, and I don't think people saw that coming, especially when we saw there was a couple of imports out for them. And then
Peterborough missing Lackenham, to be fair.
Okay, still
so there was 1 import each.
Yeah. But yeah, that's a big win for Romford. The biggest game probably of the weekend, the Milton Keynes Lightning against the Leeds Knights. And after 2 periods, it was tied at 2. Sorry, it wasn't. It was 2-1 to Milton Keynes. But in that final period, they just let loose, and very clinical performance from Milton Keynes. We'll go into the stats in a sec, but that now puts them top of the table, Dan.
Yeah, it was a good game. I got a stream for that one, so
Yeah, that's why I've
I
come to
was
you.
yeah. Thank you. Yeah, yeah. It was sort of Leeds' top six didn't really show what they can do. Um, it's not the most sort of scary I've seen their top six play. A few of their players sort of missing some key opportunities. I think Browner won a few back. I think he missed about two cross creases, put one over the bar. And I think it's just one of them games where it just wasn't going the right way for Leeds. And fair play to MK. I mean, they took their chances when they needed to. They obviously scrapped out in the first and second, and then like people have been saying on Twitter, the third period was just total domination by MK, and they just went away with it. And I think Hayward for Leeds was really good. Hayward really put on a good performance. I think Barron was quite good as well, but apart from that, I didn't really notice any sort of standout players that normally stand out for Leeds. And it's just one of them games you want to put behind you. MK's never an easy place to go, and MK again just showing their quality in their offense.
It shows,
and also their depth scoring as well. McEwen getting 2 goals.
yeah.
Their third line was playing really, really good, and yeah, I think that's really big for MK, especially on a team like that. Your depth is what's going to win you games, and they showed it in that game.
I think it showed that stats aren't everything, shots on goal aren't everything, because Leeds had 37 to MK's 22. So just really clinical from Milton Keynes. And it's nice to see, Charlie, 6 Brits on the score sheet for Milton Keynes. None of the imports in the score sheet. We're not saying we don't like imports, but it's nice to see that the Brits were the ones who stepped up. And like Dan said, Corey McEwen, a depth guy, getting 2 goals. Malik chipping in with a goal, and Max Stewart just carrying on. And like you said earlier, Charlie, Callum Field, maybe with Ben Brown leaving, it gives him an even bigger opportunity, and he took that opportunity and he scored as well. It was a really nice goal. So just nice to see the Brits getting that one done for MK.
Yeah, the Brits have been good for MK this year, and yeah, Max Stewart's having a big breakout year. County, that line seems very, very strong, and yeah, MK always seem to have Leeds' number at home. I don't know how they do it. Every time Leeds seem to be able to beat everyone's rink apart from MK's. I think they've lost there like 5 times in a row now. But yeah, MK's Brits are really stepping up this year. I'd say Max Stewart and Malik have been a big standout for them. And McEwen actually, yeah, I've seen him. We watched him score against Romford, didn't we? And he got man of the match there. That was a good pick, whoever picked that. But yeah, it's an interesting one. They look very good in their Brit core this year.
If you don't know, we picked the man of the match, so don't stop pumping your own tires, Charlie. On to the first game on Sunday then. And yes, the Solway Sharks. 2 goals from Mr. Kell Beattie himself, including the overtime winner. And it was one of them games where you probably expected it to be a goal fest, but it wasn't really a goal fest. And Jordan Marr had an absolute blinder, 44 saves out of 45, Dan. And I think he was clearly the standout in that third period. Romford piled on the pressure, 16 shots to just Solway 6. But Solway found a way, and I think just like the Milton Keynes game, they hang in there. Even though they got outshot quite heavily, they still come away with the victory.
Yeah, and obviously, Romford. You know what Romford are like in their own ring, and you can imagine what they'd have been like in that third period. But like we've always said, goalies can win you games, and I think Jordan Marr obviously is a huge pickup for Solway this year, and he's showing it again what he can do, and that decor in front of him as well. They've had a really good start to the year. We've been talking about them a lot, obviously, in the group chat and sort of off the pod. They're having a really good year. And yeah, I think as long as you can stay in it in Romford, I think you have a good chance. And that's exactly what Solway did. And they managed to grind out that win.
Yeah, I think Something about goals being scored with 9 seconds to go because Kell Beattie's was 9 seconds to go in overtime, and I know you wanted to talk a bit, Charlie, about the improvement on Solway's defence, and I think it does start with the netminder. They've got an established starter in the National League with Jordan Marr, but the improvements of the likes of Kell Beattie, Liam Stenton, we know what Arsenal does. I think Kerr's stepped up this year on the third line as well. Danskin's obviously coming in. Like, the defense has been a big part of why they've managed to grind out a lot of wins this season.
Liam Stenton and Kell Beattie is sick. Like, they are really, really good. Any team would take them in a heartbeat. Kell Beattie especially has taken a huge step forward this season.
And we're not just saying that because he's on the podcast.
I actually was saying this before I knew he was coming on. Like, it's for me and Dan, I think we said this in a previous podcast. It's just the way they can carry the puck from one zone to the next. And it's such an underrated trait. And I think Kell Beattie is one of the quickest D-men in this league. He is underratedly rapid. And he's very, very good. And then Liam Stenton, he has stepped up his game massively. And I'd almost say Arsenal looks like he's doing less because the other two have taken on a bit of the load, so he doesn't have to play 35 minutes a night. And as you said, Kerr, Shevlin, these guys chip in. But I think the top three of them, Decor, I said to them, if they make playoffs this year, I think there's a big credit to them three because, to be honest, I don't think there's many teams in the league, if any, who they wouldn't get in the top 4D of, like individually. Them two, Kell Beattie and Stenton, they're top D-man, and they're just a huge part of Solway this year. And I think they've locked down a bit on the D this year. Like now, not recently, sorry. I think they started off the year a bit open, and I think they've realised they've got to close the games a bit lower scoring, and now you're starting to see them get them nitty-gritty wins.
Yeah. Liam Stenton, 22, Kell Beattie, 20 years old. If they can keep them for the next couple seasons, I think Solway are only gonna get even better. And yeah, just a 9.7 save percentage for Jordan Marr. That'll do him a world of good. And a solid weekend for Solway. I think they had a 4-point weekend a couple weeks ago as well. So they're definitely giving Telford a real good go this year for that playoff spot. And if they did. The thing is, last season, this would have easily got them probably a playoff spot, but it is so competitive this year. It's not just one half and then the bottom half. Like, everyone is getting points this season, so it's really good to see. The Leeds Knights, they don't lose twice, do they, Dan? They don't lose twice in a row, and they get the 3-1 victory over the Phantoms. And it was that guy again who you pointed out at the start of the season, Finn Braden, with a pair, considering what, he's only 19 years old. He's so good for his age, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was his birthday yesterday, so that's not a bad
it was
birthday
on his
present for
birthday.
him. Scoring 2 goals. But yeah, he's another guy he's got so much potential. I think the sky's the limit for that guy. He's another guy that Leeds are going to want to keep hold of because I think there will be a lot of teams looking his way next year, and I think we know obviously one team that will definitely be looking in his way. But Leeds
Dogs.
But Leeds will want to be keeping hold of him because he's been unreal even through like when he was obviously first joined Leeds. I think he's just one of those players that you sort of team with him, and in the future he's going to be one of them guys that I could imagine being like, I've been here since I was a kid. I want to be staying with these guys. I want to build this team. And I mean, the core that they've already got, I mean, adding him isn't going to do any issues. So yeah, he's a great talent and a really good player for Leeds.
It is a good point you make. I'm glad that a lot of the teams still have their younger players, and they've not all just decided to go to Sheffield because of the two-way system, because I think it is important to say that they'll still get two ways and chances to play in the Elite League if they can do it at any team in this league. So he's so good. He is so good for his age, and he's definitely the young lad in the team, Charlie, who you'd probably say isn't really a third or fourth liner. He can play that role, but he is probably going to be a big top six asset for Leeds in the future if they can keep hold of him.
Yeah, he's on. Dan said he's on their PP1 as well,
Yeah, he
so
is.
he's getting the opportunity he needs, and he's got some good luck guys to learn in that team. We've got Hayward to help him with a lot of the nitty gritty stuff and kind of the scrappy side of the game. But you've also got Brown with the shot, Howlett with the speed. You got good people in that team, and I think you'd be silly to leave that team. It's a cracking team, and I think next year he'll get his opportunity to play top six full time, and I really do see him developing well. And I think he's on a good path. I think each year he takes that step forward, and yeah, I think it'd be only a matter of time until we start seeing him consistently. You're like, oh, he's up there, he's getting up there, he's getting up there.
To be fair, actually, he was on the second line. They put Boycer onto the third line, probably to add even more physicality against Peterborough's third line with the likes of Gretton. And Braden was on that second line with Brown and Barron, and that was the line which got the goal. So, yeah, credit Aldridge as well, because when he has switched some players onto the lines, it has actually worked really well for them. Obviously, with Brown, Howlett last week, and then Braden this week, and a big bounce back game for Sam Gospel as well. He probably let in a couple on that Saturday down, which he probably want back, but he'll probably actually be disappointed that Peterborough scored with like just over a minute to go, because he probably would have got that shot. But Sam Gospel, he rarely has a bad patch, does he? It's if he has a poor game one game, he puts it behind him, and he had a great game on that Sunday.
Yeah, 100%. That's the biggest thing about him, is the fact that he doesn't sort of go on these rough patches.
Yeah,
He sort of has like one rough patch and then that's it. And I think that's what you get from these experienced goaltenders, is they don't let it sort of get to them. I always said it. Obviously, it's a totally different netminder that Alex met him for Basingstoke. I always said that he never really let a goal get to him. He'd sort of just carry on the play and just sort of just shrug it off, and that's a huge aspect of an experienced goaltender, and it's one that's going to win you trophies like Leeds have.
Yeah. On to the game which I was at on the Sunday. A massive game for both teams. If Swindon had lost, that's a 0 point weekend. If Hull had lost, 5 on the bounce, 3 at home. And I gotta say, I think it was the perfect road game for Swindon. Obviously they'll be disappointed about giving up the lead, but for the first 2 periods, Dan, because I'll come to Dan and then I'll come to Charlie because Dan watched the stream. But the first 2 periods, obviously Swindon keeping Hull out, and I don't think they've been shut out this season. So you always knew Hull were probably going to get a goal or two, but to shut them out in the first 40 minutes of a game, after just losing in the last seconds the night before against Sheffield, to then come into this game and do that, I thought Swindon played it really, really well. Like defensively, on the big pad as well, with the players that Hull have. I know Hull switched the lines up, but I thought we really limited them to those key chances.
Yeah, 100%, and that's what you need to do against that team. You do need to just nullify them a little bit, because we know when they can score, they do score in bunches. But I think on the other hand, you can see it's a team really low on confidence right now. I think the players that obviously were sort of scoring for fun at the start of the year, it's really starting to they're really struggling to find their feet at the minute. And I think you got players like Svek that's really struggling at the minute. You've obviously they brought in Cornell. He came in firing, and now he's not picking up the points, but I mean his play is still there. But I think it's just a team really low on confidence, and they need to find something to spark them up. And I think they've been struggling with a few injuries in D as well, and it's just all tumbled down now, and they just need to sort of get out of this rut and start getting a bit of confidence going.
Yeah,
but
well,
no credit to Swindon, because they played a really good game.
I was going to say, we'll quickly talk on Swindon, Charlie, and then we'll just mention about Hull. But I thought when Hull got it back to 2-2, we've seen it a lot this season where we've done so well for 40, 45 minutes. We haven't quite been able to do it for the whole 60 minutes. But to come back from Hull coming back to 2-2, the key moment in that game, and I think this was the game changer for me, Sobchak's 1-on-1 at 2-2, and Rennie Ma makes a huge save. Sobchak, I think, went to fake him out. Rennie actually did bite a bit, but he still managed to get himself in front of the puck. That was a humongous save. I thought Rennie was brilliant. And then from that, just a couple minutes later, we then score 3 quick goals. And I think we were due that little bit of luck, Charlie, this season, where we've every single away game we've lost has been by that one goal, but we got those 3 quick goals, and it was just kind of a bit of a sigh of relief, and hopefully that'll be a lot of confidence for those Swindon players. And you're looking at the goal scorers we had: Balint Bacosti, Jake Britnell, who maybe they haven't had the greatest of patches recently for their standards. That is massive for them, and that should be a lot of confidence going into these next games.
Yeah, I did think Bally was good last week.
Yeah, Bally was, yeah.
He picked up his form last week, but no, it was a big one for Swindon. I think we needed that after a Sheffield game where we let ourselves down, and I have to be honest there, the result wasn't good enough in Sheffield. We then probably won the harder game of the weekend on paper, and it was important for us. A big goal from Luke Johnson, that was the one I saw to kick off the game, but. No, it was important. It was a game which was needed, a result which was needed, and I think Rennie deserves that because he's been having a good year. Maybe, I don't think his save percentage is over talking. I think Rennie has had a much better year than last year. I think he stepped up his game, and yeah, I think it's a big result for Swindon. Just yeah, and it means we don't drop down the pack either. We still stay where we need to be. Do I think we'll be competing for leagues this year? Personally, I don't, but. Do I think we'll be in a decent position at the end of the year for playoffs? Yeah, I do. And I think that's important. It's the fact we got 2 points from a tough weekend. Not the end of the world. I think it's very difficult to get 4 points from that weekend.
Yeah, it is very difficult. Obviously, I just think it's a massive result considering what happened on that Saturday to bounce back and do that, even when Hull tied it up. To still go in those last 5 minutes and really peel the game. Well, shout out to Ed Bradley as well. I thought he scored 2 really nice goals. How many goals has he scored now this season? He scored 6 goals from D. We knew he was going to bring offense, but 6 goals. That's very, very impressive. And yeah, just a big performance. As for Hull, this rut will come to an end. 5 losses on the bounce. It's tough. 3 at home. I think this just shows how important Hayward was for them at the start of the season, and him being out, he is their solid second line D. He can go on the top line if they need to. Some positive is that they'll have Hodgkinson and Spraggan come in, so that and Cohen Taylor will hopefully be back as well. So there is some positives to take that it can't really get any worse, and I think they've got Bees and Bristol next weekend, which are must-win games. I think that'll be the telling. They have to get 4 points from those games, Dan.
Yeah, it's sort of that's a good weekend for them to have at this point because they do need obviously some games against teams like that. And yeah, I mean
it's another tripping hazard because Bees and Bristol ain't gonna give you an easy game this season.
Yeah, no, definitely not. But they've had some struggles in D, and they've brought in this Hodgkinson and obviously Spraggan, but they haven't actually played for them yet. So they're still in the same scenario as they were. And so, like you say, having them come in next week obviously will be a big help for them. And it might be just what they needed just to sort of get it across the line because you can see that they are struggling to defend. They are struggling to keep the puck out of the net. And I think that will just automatically spur the forwards on.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it will be a very interesting weekend for Hull, and they are gonna have to put in a performance. I don't think the fans are gonna be able to sort of see anything past the 4 point weekend. So it's going to be tough. They do have pressure on them, but I think Matty's really going to drill into them this week, and I think he knows the importance of this weekend. And I think they've just got to go for it. And like we said about Telford, they do just need to find this result and just sort of build on it from there.
Yeah, we've seen it happen with Telford. It won't last forever, Seahawks fans, and I expect them to get 4 points next weekend, but you never know. It's the National League. We'll brush over the Telford-Sheffield game because I think it backs up what you said, Charlie. Ivan Bjorkley-Nordstrom getting a pair since coming back from his injury. You can really see he's kind of picking it up now and showing what he was like last season for Peterborough. So he got a couple goals, and Tremblay getting a goal as well. I think that was the empty netter. So yeah, that's a massive road win for Sheffield again with players out. And they beat a very informed Telford team who maybe were a bit tired from that Solway game. But that is a massive 4-point weekend for Sheffield. And then the final game was the MK Lightning and the Bees, and it was looking like the Lightning were just gonna take the 3-1 game, see it out. But the Bees don't give up, do they, Charlie? On their own rink, they get 2 late power play goals. Antonov and Wilstead, who we've banged on about all season, getting another big goal for them. That's 11 now this season. And they take it to penalty shots against Milton Keynes with 13 flipping players. And they've done that in back-to-back weeks against Swindon and MK, and they've picked up 2 points from it. Sorry, 3 points from it, because they got 2 points against us. Like, fair play to us.
13 players, and one of the ones missing is Ballas. One of the main guys you rely on. Fair play to the Beat. I feel for them this year. A lot of them players I feel for, because part of it doesn't feel right at times. You're like, you're turning up to games with 13 skaters. What was their first game weekend? Bristol, must-win game, and I think you have 13 skaters, and you're just thinking, oh, that's so unfortunate. Like, it's tough on them boys. I bet on Monday mornings their legs they don't work very well. But no, they keep resilience. They are resilience, and they still have that fight from last year. They really do, and I've got a lot of respect for Bees. I've got a bit of a soft spot for them. They're just such a lovely group of lads who just work their ass off, and like Antonov's a classic example of that. Is he could play for any team really. He's that good, but he plays for the Bees every week. He scores loads of goals for them, and he's a class player. So yeah, fair play to the Bees. And to be fair, MK, I said this to you. I said, to be honest, if I was an MK fan, I'd be a bit frustrated, but at the end of the day, you got 2 points. It does show slightly worrying signs. You shouldn't be losing a game. I think they took 2 penalties in the last 4 minutes, 4 or 5 minutes of a game. In the future, don't do that, because it will cost you. But for this game, they got away with it. They did get away with it. They didn't lose any points. They managed to get both points, which is the most important thing. But they do need to close out away games slightly better, but then they are top of the league. So,
yeah, 3 of their wins have been on penalty shots. So they're pretty good at this. The good old skills.
That's 3 points
game.
It's not bad. You get 3 points from that. You can't.
No, I'm joking. It is important, and yeah, no one really. You look back at it in a few weeks, no one really cares that they won it on penalty shots because they got the 2 points. But Max Wright again, 39 out of 42 saves. Like, he gives them a chance every night at home. So yeah, just fair play to the Bees. Fair play to Antonov. I don't think you can hate the Bees. I don't really know a fan who dislikes the Bees, because they just try their hardest every game, even if they don't have.
Stoke used to be their rivals, didn't they?
Yeah, but Dan, you don't mind Bees, do you?
No, I don't mind Bees. It's pretty much Basingstoke now. So,
and big shout out to Tate as well. They might play. The Bees might not play the most flashy hockey, but when you got 13 flipping players, you're not going to be able to play the most flashy hockey, and it's clearly working. Getting 3 out of 4 points against Swindon and MK at home. So fair play to them. It would have been brilliant if they did get that win on the penalty shots, wouldn't it? Back-to-back weekends on penalty shots. Against 2 really good teams. So, yeah, that wraps up this weekend. I don't think we've got too much else to say, apart from Milton Keynes are at the top. Charlie, have we got anything else to add before we quickly brush over the fixtures for next week?
No. I'm back watching hockey next week, and then I'm off to, I think next weekend, maybe my last weekend before I go off again. So, yeah, I'm going off to Copenhagen and Budapest for 6 days. So yeah,
you have to see if there's a hockey game on, maybe.
Yeah, I think I may be going to a football Champions League game. So
not too
bad.
We
don't care about football, mate. We're about hockey.
Chirp. But yeah, next weekend Wildcats have their Rock to Rink. rock the rink.
Shout out to
Sorry,
Wildcat Twos.
huh?
Shout out to Wildcat Twos.
Oh
I
yeah,
know we don't
Wildcat
talk about
2's
National
one.
League much, but yeah, we cooked.
Yeah,
Wildcats cooking.
Jan Kostel as well, playing with little Jan Kostel. That was nice to see the first time them playing together. But next weekend, Wildcats against Romford Raiders. Leeds have Telford, so a really tough test for the Tigers. Bees have Sheffield. The Lightning have Solway Sharks. So the two, well, actually, Solway got 3 out of 4, but that'll be a really good game. And then Bristol Hull, we've already talked about that. That's a massive game for Hull to try and get 2 points from. And then on the Sunday, Solway against Milton Keynes again. That'll be another tough test for Milton Keynes. See if they can do it in that away game. Romford against Bristol. I think that's going to be a really good game. Hull against Bees, Peterborough against Sheffield, and then the Tigers against the Wildcats. I think that's the first time we go up to Telford this season. Obviously, we played them in pre-season. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much everything. Kell, if you come on, thank you very much for hopping on for the interview. Dan, anything else to add?
No, nothing from me.
Nice one. Well, we'll see.
Excited to get back to hockey, I'll say that.
Yeah, you will be here next weekend, will you?
Yeah, I'll be there next weekend.
Okay, good. But yeah, we'll catch you in the next episode next weekend.
It's Nando's next week.
Telford Nando's. Telford Nando's.
Nando's.
Oh,
yeah.
Hey, Telford's all the way. Dan drives through Swindon for Telford. So he'll pick me up and we'll go have a Nando's.
Oh, nice one. Right. We'll catch you in the next one. Peace.